In 1989, 5 Black and Latino teenagers were arrested and charged for brutally attacking and raping a white female jogger in Central Park. News media swarmed the case, calling it the crime of the century, creating the already present divide among races in the 1980s New York City to split even further. But the truth about what really happened didn't become clear until after the 5 had spent years in prison for a crime they didn't commit. In Ken Burns' 2012 documentary, The Central Park 5, this story of injustice finally gets the telling it deserves. The film tells the riveting tale of innocent young men scapegoated for a heinous crime and serves as a reflection of a darker time in America's largest city.
These were 5 kids who we tormented, we falsely accused, we pilloried in the press, we attacked, we invented phrases for the imagined crimes that we're accusing them of.
The thesis of the Central Park 5 is that those who are most vulnerable will suffer the most when authority is not checked. This is demonstrated through the injustice that the 5 boys face at the hands of the police and the media, as they were forced to suffer due to a crime they did not commit. The Central Park 5 appeals to pathos very effectively through many methods. The interviews with the people from the case allow for the audience to experience the case from an extremely emotional point of view, as seen in this clip of the father of one of the boys explaining how he felt after his son was found guilty.
One of my friends had a radio, and then I heard it.
Guilty on rape, robbery, riot, and assault.
Tears came out of my eye.
For all 3.
Yeah, I was mad.
By watching the emotions take over these people, the audience will also begin to feel an emotional attachment to the story, invoking a deeper response. The constant use of childhood photos also plays on the heartstrings of the viewers, as they hear the story of these boys while also being presented with a visual depicting them as children. Music, though subtle, is frequently and effectively used to adjust the mood of the documentary as well. When they want the audience to feel scared or be in suspense, the music becomes slow and intimidating.
And then in about 84,
when they want to portray a sense of deep sadness or remorse, the music focuses around the slow, shrill high note of a piano. In one of the opening scenes, a rock beat and a hip-hop beat are mixed over panning views of quick alternating shots of New York City, making the audience feel overwhelmed with the fast-paced feel of the city and the lives of the people in the documentary.
New York, under-policed city with crime out of control.
The criminal justice system isn't working.
The Central Park 5 appeals to logos through the brilliant use of reliable footage from the time of the case in order to show that the points that are being discussed are factual. Snippets of news clips, videos of the protests, official police footage from the scene of the crime, and the official police confession tapes from each of the boys further strengthens the ability of the audience to believe that what the documentary is saying is indeed factual. Through its use of first-hand and credible sources, the Central Park 5 builds its ethos by providing an accurate narrative to the story. The documentary uses a variety of people as sources for the interviews and information given. All 5 of the men who were charged in the case are interviewed and shown thoroughly, providing the most credible first-hand source on the case possible. Reporters are also interviewed and featured multiple times, given credible sources from separate parts of the case. This mixture of sources from both sides of the case allow the audience to feel that they are being provided with credible information that is factual to the topic. The first method of development used is deductive reasoning. In order to pinpoint the true issue of the Central Park 5, Ken Burns first focuses on the overall issue of the proxy race war that was happening in New York City in the 80s. The documentary opens with a montage of news clips highlighting the acts of violence and tensions between the races in the city. By introducing the audience to a more generalized issue, Ken Burns is able to focus tighter and tighter on the incident of the Central Park jogger. By the time the documentary has started to bring up the case, the audience understands the basis of the conflict already. The second method of development is the anecdote. Anecdotes from the 5 men involved in the case, journalists who were covering the case, historians, and others who had close ties to the case, provide a majority of the storytelling, allowing for the accounts of the case to be more personal and emotional. The first documentary convention used is the montage. Montages are most often used in this documentary to familiarize the audience with a particular setting, whether that be the neighborhood of Harlem, demonstrating where the kids grew up, or the setting of the racial proxy war in New York City, which is established through the montage of news clips talking about the multiple altercations. A second convention used is realism. The people in the documentary are very humanized, making it very easy for the audience to connect with the people on screen. This is done by allowing long pauses and emotional breakdowns during the interviews to remain in the final cut, showing the audience just how emotional and real everything is for them. Though there are many technical codes that help to push the message of the documentary, there is one that is very subtle yet very effective. Slow motion is used well to dramatize certain scenarios. This happens here when Kevin Richardson is leaving the police station. His walk is slowed down to allow the audience more time to process the scene and be able to think about what the creator is trying to say. Ken Burns has done a masterful job of opening up the world to a whole new side of one of the most infamous crimes in the history of New York City. Approaching such a controversial and troubling subject, it can be difficult to push a message while remaining tasteful. However, with his brilliant use of conventions and codes, as well as his many methods of persuasion, he was able to tell the extremely difficult story with much grace and care. The Central Park 5 is a masterpiece of a documentary that uses the appeals of logos, ethos, and especially pathos to reflect on one of the darkest times in New York City history.
I felt ashamed, actually, for New York. And I also felt extremely angry because their innocence never got the attention that their guilt did.